Do something.
Yeah, we've all now given up. Anyway, it's been a week of drama surrounding Antonio Brown and his new helmet. The star wide receiver is with the Raiders in Winnipeg ahead of tonight's preseason game. AB has received some criticism for not being on the field, but as seen in the most recent episode of Hard Knocks, his coach John Gruden is only showing support.
How are your feet? You hurt? Once they get real hot, then they get a little burning, but for the most part, I feel good. It's just when it's really hot, they start to burn. I got to take my cryo chamber. Yeah, Coach, not again, never again. Thanks for supporting me, Coach. My head, the feet, people after me.
I've been there.
You've been a constant supporter, Coach. Thank you.
I've been there. But if you got any problems, anything bothering you, if you have any problems, I got problems.
We're all in this together.
You know what I'm saying? So I know you got a lot of people in your ear because you're like a corporation that's kind of gone global. Yeah. But at the end of the day, let's keep it simple. Yep. You know what I mean? Football comes first.
Absolutely.
Everything else way behind it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Let's because you handle all that seamlessly, beautiful. Huh?
Seamlessly, I like that word.
I was trying to come up with a multi-syllable word.
That's a great word. Seamlessly.
Yeah, 3 syllables.
I'll look that up.
Yeah. They don't have those at Dayton and Central Michigan.
Okay, so AB retweeted a Pro Football Talk tweet about the ratings for Hard Knocks being way up in Pittsburgh, simply stating, "My ex still thinks of me." Jeff Darlington made his way over here, and you spent a lot of time around Antonio Brown. What takeaways do you have about the divorce, first of all, with the Steelers, and then how differently he seems to be treated by John Gruden and the Raiders so far?
First of all, thanks for having me over here. It's much calmer.
I know. We're relaxed over here.
Deep
all good.
breath after that. Look, Antonio Brown, I've spent enough time with him to understand that he is loving exactly the way that John Gruden is treating him. And a lot of people want to say at this point that it's a situation where Gruden shouldn't have to give him this special treatment. Well, guess what? Gruden recognizes if you're going to get the most out of Antonio Brown, that's exactly what you're going to have to do. We've got a good cop, bad cop situation right now. Gruden playing the good cop, Mike Mayock playing the bad cop. When it came to the Pittsburgh Steelers, the discussions that I've had with Antonio Brown, I've recognized that he just wanted a little more love. Maybe you say he didn't deserve that love, but in this situation, the Raiders clearly understand that, and they seem to at least be kind of, I think, putting together a good relationship here.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a philosophy out there that says, hey, not anybody gets special treatment, but sometimes when you're Antonio Brown or some of these other players, you do get a little special treatment. Greeny, what do you guys think about this?
Well, that's an interesting point. I was really interested to watch that clip that we showed you there from Hard Knocks, and I saw it the other night when it was on. And Joey, I'd be curious to get your perspective because you played for John Gruden. Yeah. I think you have a little bit of a different sense of what that moment actually meant.
Yeah, that is so Gruden right there. That is in the Gruden playbook. Talk to the player, hey guy, I'm your dude. Everything is great. But then go to Mike Mayock and say, hey, I'm gonna need you to come out and say something publicly. When I was in Tampa first season, I got hurt because we went so hard in camp. Me and Gruden sat down in the offseason, went to Hooters, went over the camp schedule, discussed the days I was not going to practice because I wasn't going hard. I wasn't even coming outside on half the days because it's so hot in Florida. When we get to the season and I'm not coming outside, Gruden then says, hey, there's Galloway finally came outside. And the nickname White Tiger came up because Gruden started that, as in, we rarely see this guy come outside. It's like seeing a white tiger. But we had discussed this in the offseason. That was the game plan. But then publicly, let's have some fun. And let's just say, this guy never comes outside.
So what you're suggesting is it all looks really good right now.
It all looks really good right now.
It doesn't necessarily mean it stays that way. What did you see there?
It has to remain a courtship for this to work. Like, this is not a player that you get into your locker room and then it's business as usual. John Gruden and Mike Mayock recognize that this has to be a courtship for Antonio Brown the next 2 or 3 years in order to get what you want to get out of him. Now, how much you want to spend time doing that, that's up to the individual coach and the individual GM. But when you look at this situation in Oakland, there is no way that they hadn't prepared for this. There is no way that they didn't look at Antonio Brown's profile and the things that he's went on. They did not do their due diligence with the Pittsburgh Steelers and say, hey, what was it like with this guys? I'm sure they had those type of conversations. This is going to be John Gruden's job, giving AB most of the attention.
Swagoo, remember, it's production equals tolerance. And right now there's a lot of production, or they're counting on a lot of production, so there's a lot of tolerance. And really what we're seeing here, to your point, Joey, is you want the coach to feel like, hey, the player, I got your back. and let the GM come out. He's the law and order guy. He's the rule guy. I'll be the bad cop. And John, you put your arm around AB, let him feel great about things.
Short term, are we all confident it will work?
Yes, short term. But the question is, how much can you compromise one player for 52 other guys that aren't as noisy? So
it goes back to the same
depends
thing
on how
I
many
said about
touchdowns he
LaFleur
gets.
and
It's always
Aaron
short term
Rodgers.
with Gruden.
The
Gruden always
success.
works short term.
The success, like we all know that if AB doesn't get enough catches, and if Derek Carr is not on point, this is going to grow and become another monster.
All right, I have to leave it there, but we will do much more on this as we continue. In the meantime, other sports news around the world of sports. Laura, let's get up and go.
We begin with tennis, Greeny, where the U.S. Open begins Monday. You will not see chair umpire Carlos Ramos working any matches involving Serena or Venus Williams. In last year's U.S. Open final, you may remember, Serena lost to Naomi Osaka, and Williams was furious with Ramos after he penalized her twice, including a game penalty. Afterward, she called him a thief. To baseball, the Dodgers were at it again last night. Max Muncy delivering with the walk-off homer in the bottom of the 10th, giving LA a 2-1 win over the Blue Jays. It was the Dodgers' 7th walk-off homer and 11th walk-off win this season, both the best in the majors. Muncy has also now homered in 5 straight games, the longest streak by a Dodgers batter since Jock Peterson did that in 2015. Now, meanwhile, it was a historic upset last night in Houston as the Tigers shocked the Astros 2-1. The Tigers closed as a plus 435 underdog at Caesars, making their win in the largest upset in the Major League Baseball game in the last 15 seasons. Justin Verlander took a complete game loss, allowing 2 solo homers, while Robinson Chirinos was thrown out at third for the final out of the game, trying to leg out that triple there. Would have given him the cycle. The Tigers were that plus 35 underdog Wednesday, making it the largest MLB upset, as we said. And the Astros have been on the losing end of 3 of the 5 biggest upsets in the last 15 seasons, all which came in games started by Justin Verlander, including one 10 days ago against the Orioles. Plenty more to come on Get Up with Ezekiel Elliott. Stephen A. is weighed in. Everybody's been talking about it, about Zeke. We'll ask Louis Riddick what he thinks about Zeke and his deal next. And the NFL wants to keep its stars healthy. Will the consequences have a issue with the preseason? Greeny is going to make a bold prediction about preseason games. We'll see what everybody has to say.